It's a
Go ahead and get started, everyone.
jumping.
Make it to your seat.
She thought that it was one guy, but
I
it
mean,
was.
Jimmy, though, what is it, the saying that the talented felt it?
I did.
Jimmy's always
Thank you.
telling me about it. Is he the one doing the jumping?
That's it.
All right. Good morning once again. We're in our part 2 or meeting number 2 for the Department of Public Works committee meeting in regards to our rollout citywide trash and recycling carts. I'm happy to be joined by President Pro Temp Councilor Hogan, Majority Leader Sheeta Caldwell, Councilor Nave, Councilor Monto, Councilor Paniagua, also our Deputy Commissioner and Deputy Commissioner, Jeremy Robinson and Fordock, Chief Operating Officer Corey Driscoll, and we have some other members of Bartlett and Judas here. Glad to see you all. And
Friends from Okra.
What's that? Oh, Friends from Okra.
Okra.
Yeah, we have Okra here as well. Some of our sanitation leaders here. And we'll go ahead and get started. Once again, we have a presentation, correct?
You bet.
And I said we go through the presentation first, see how some of your questions might be answered, and then we'll ask questions after that.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gathers. Thank you, councilors, for allowing us the opportunity to come and update the council on where we're at with our recycling cart rollout. So just to kind of, in terms of, that's okay. I can tap dance. I was about to say that looks new. We're good. Okay. Sorry. That's all right. I'm going to take a sip of water. One sec. Technical difficulties. Okay, here we go. Okay, so just kind of our slide that I'm sure many councilors have seen before, but just a reminder of why we're all here and why we rolled out trash carts and recycling carts. Was a desire to invest in our neighborhoods and improve the services that we deliver to residents. I know this is one of our favorite photos, kind of a before and after of trash carts. Obviously the main reasons that brought us to the CART program in general was, to improve the safety of our employees that work in sanitation. And we've got Ben from sanitation here and Lisa Schmidt also from personnel who can answer any questions councilors might have about, have we actually moved the needle in terms of worker safety? Our other one was, neighborhood cleanliness. That's really a priority for us. To try and contain as much trash as we can and moving into recycling, that's our same approach. And then also just having a very straightforward service, easier for people to understand for residents of, how much can I put out? How do I put it out? What container do I use? Just making it very straightforward and uniform across the neighborhoods. So, recycling carts are obviously going to play a pivotal role in cleanliness. It's really the natural next step after trash. And so we're excited to talk about it. So the recycling cart rollout. So the delivery is scheduled to begin October 7th. It'll happen over a 2-week period of time to October 9th. Unlike the trash cart, 19th. We're going to do it over 2 days. Unlike the trash cart rollout, we decided not to go with a phased approach. I think we've learned a number of lessons from the trash cart rollout, and so we felt confident that we could roll out the recycling cart citywide. So that's going to happen over that 2-week period. And residents should begin using their recycling cart once they receive it, which is a similar message that we had when we rolled out trash carts. As soon as you get the cart, start using it. Many in the audience, I know myself included, have received the first mailing notifying people about when the carts are going to be delivered. It's also, the biweekly pickup, and Ann can speak to this a little bit more, but I know we also covered it in a previous committee meeting about why we were moving to biweekly. And so, with this mailing, we're helping to identify people, whether or not they're in A week or B week, providing them with a calendar. This is similar to things that many other municipalities do, but we also recognize that communication is going to be key here, and we need to make sure that residents understand, that it's happening biweekly and what week they're on. I don't know, Ann, if there's anything you wanted to add about the biweekly pickup.
I think it's worth just mentioning that when we did our participation study, that less than 50% of residents are participating with recycling. And so by giving everyone a recycling cart, we're really closing that barrier of access to a recycling vessel, right? They may have never had one or just never used one. And so we are closing that gap. And so when you go from less than half of the residents recycling to hopefully the vast majority, we won't get to 100%, but let's say we get 80, 90% recycling, that does affect the workload for the employees.
So that's the information on biweekly pickup. And then also, I think one of the most important things that I know the council has been concerned about in the administration as well is just our communication. What's our outreach? How are we telling people that this is happening? And so, Sol, I think you can kind of walk through that slide of what the communication education is going to be.
So with the packets that I gave you with the presentation, there's also a collateral package. So it's basically everything we've already created has been approved that will go out. There's a couple more things, but it's basically residents will be receiving starting this week, in the next month or so, 3 postcards, 1 20-day notice that their carts are getting delivered, a 10-day reminder, hey, your cart's getting delivered, you're an A or a B week, explaining to them which week they are, when they should set out their recycling, which day to start setting out their recycling, and a calendar for the entire year. We will give another calendar with our city services guide in January with the schedule for next year of A and B weeks. With their cart, they will also receive a letter with cart guidelines, frequently asked questions, a translation card, do's and don'ts card, which is up on the board, and then Okra recycling guidelines, which our Okra partners are here to help us with that information as well. We will be having a press event on October 7th when we start delivering the carts. We have started doing social media videos, announcing guidelines, tips and tricks, anything that we know residents will have questions about. We are still in the works with the coloring book and plan on having it out hopefully in the next couple of weeks. And we will be attending all TNT meetings during the month of October, if I am correct.
Yes. There will be some other educational opportunities. We're partnering with Okra at the Westcott Street Community Fair this weekend, and really hoping to use our time today in part to identify what other outreach opportunities are available as we're 2 or 3 weeks out from the carts being delivered. What are other things that we could be doing to try and reach more people? We can
send you dates and places.
Absolutely. I'm happy to take my show on the road. Yeah. So, really, the coloring book, a lot of that we're doing this time is feedback that we received from the council when we did the trash cart rollout. And so we've tried to incorporate that feedback to address some of the, to just expand our communication outreach. So if there are other ways, obviously TNT meetings don't reach everybody, but where are places that we could either be attending, we could be posting information, that we can make sure that we're reaching as many people as we can. There's no one surefire way to reach everybody. If there were, we would have found it already as a city. But we're trying to reach people in as many ways as we can and trying to reach them where they are as well. So for the A or B, I mean, well, Ann, do you want to speak to? I mean, it's a bit of a challenge in that sense because, I think there are ways that we could try and make things available to residents if they want to put it on their cart. I think it's a little bit of a challenge to manufacture, we're getting the full manufactured carts and that way it's one that is the same for everybody, but, as opposed to having storage for A and storage for B.
So the warning sticker that's on the slide right now does have an option on it to, re-educate them about, hey, you put it out on the wrong collection day. And so that is an option, but trash and recycling, so you're gonna put your trash every week and the recycling crew is only gonna be on the A week, on A weeks during that time. So they're not even gonna be on the B week to be doing that kind of correction. It's really going to be, you're gonna set out your recycling, it's not gonna get picked up because you had the wrong week. And that's how you're gonna learn from your neighbors and from your own actions and from Call City Line. But you're not learning that way completely. Obviously, we've told you and told you and told you several times, but we experienced that obviously with the optimization. There were some people that got you saw the comments online. They said, oh, I forgot. And we were able to still pick that up. So people are learning. The vast majority figured out very quickly and remembered, oh, yes, you did give me 2 postcards. And they were able to course correct. So I predict the exact same thing.
So the important thing, and especially as we're initially rolling out the carts, is education. You know, we're not looking to penalize people as we're all learning as a community how to use these. So that's why these are, you know, we have a warning period. We are proposing a warning period of 4 weeks to help facilitate the transition. We've got warning tickets. They're not violation tickets. You know, we call them oops stickers also, just to try and bring that education to the residents so that they know, hey, you know, maybe you didn't realize because you've never recycled before that you're not supposed to bag your recyclables. You're not supposed to put them in a bag. They're just supposed to be loose. You know, you shouldn't have, you know, food in there. You shouldn't be putting your leaves in there. You know, we recognize that either people that do recycle could always use more education. I know I could. But also we've got a number of people who might be recycling for either the first time ever or the first time in a long time. And really the priority is education before we move to any, you know, violation notices and enforcement. I mean, we really want to approach this from an educational
Or
standpoint.
you think 4 weeks is long? I mean, that's just 2 cycles. That's pretty short.
Are you thinking like 6 weeks?
I don't know what I'm thinking, but I think 4 is too short.
Okay.
Right? I mean, I don't know how my colleagues feel, but like that's giving people just 2 cycles to
Yeah.
catch. I mean,
No, I think that's fair feedback. You know, we want to make sure that, to your point, that we're giving people enough time without making it too long so that people just, you know, go such a long period of time without having to correct the behavior that they don't necessarily learn. So, you know, if the council would be more comfortable, you know, adding another cycle, maybe bringing it to 6 weeks, I think we would be.
I think what Ann said struck me because if she's telling us that half the people in the city aren't recycling at all, then they're learning the whole, I mean, they're learning everything from
That's fair.
from the ground up.
Okay.
So
That's
what
fair.
happens when people start, you just alluded to it, things maybe in the bottom that you don't recognize?
Right. So, I mean, that's why we want to, you know, implement this warning period. So people might not know you can't put a stereo in there, or you can't put, you know, and so trying to
Or any
use,
kind of trash that
or
is
any
wrong.
kind of trash. You can't mix your trash in with your recyclables. You know, that's why we really want to use this warning period as an educational, you know, it's an educational period to make sure that people are aware. And again, this isn't the only time they'll be receiving this information. They'll be receiving it in the mailings that we do. They'll be receiving it in materials that are delivered with the carts. They'll see it on social media. Like, we're trying to make sure that every way that we can, and again, open to other ideas and suggestions, that we're also educating people, not just about how to use the cart, because I think for trash, most people understand, you know, this is the cart, you have to use it, but how do you recycle?
So the recycles are not to be bagged.
Correct.
So if there's a bag there, you know that that doesn't belong. Okay,
Correct.
So that's how you can,
Correct. So, I mean, you know, and DPW can speak to this more, but I would think the workers, when they lift the top, look inside and see that it's all bagged recyclables, this is the opportunity for them to put that sticker on as an educational opportunity to say to the resident, you know.
I was just, you know, because you won't be like opening all the bags to
Right,
see
yeah,
if-
we
I
wouldn't be
mean,
like
that-
tearing
that
it
would be,
apart or
like,
anything like that. Right.
Impossible.
Emphasize something Corey has said in the past, because it just sounded great, so I might as well. This is not new information about recycling. So you currently cannot bag your recycling. You're going to get tagged if you do that. You currently cannot put construction debris and wood and trash in that recycling bin. You currently, you know, should be rinsing your recycling. So these are not new things as far as educating what you can and can't put in there, but as Councilor Monto said, there's some that aren't participating currently, so.
Right. So, I mean, the rules about recycling aren't changing, but what is changing is by providing this container, we hope more people will recycle. And so pairing that with education so that people know what to do is you know, how we can hopefully.
Are we expecting that people that have like a 65-inch television cardboard box, we're not expecting them to use a box cutter to cut that into pieces and put it in the cart, are we?
So I think, you know, and this is where I look to my friends from Okra, you know, there is a reason why, and again, Okra is the one who's receiving the material. So it's I mean, obviously that was the case with trash to some degree, but, you know, Okra is the one that really has the expertise on recycling, and as well as a former Okra employee. But I mean, there is a reason why Okra and thus the city asks people to break cardboard down, a lot of that has to do with how it's processed at the facility. And if it's too large to make it onto the conveyor belt, it's too large to be processed. So, I think, still working with Okra, because even, we were talking this morning that, and I think input from the council as well, if the cardboard is able to be broken down, if it's compacted, is that something that might make it easier for it to be processed? But I think the concern also remains that, the idea is to try and reduce the amount of material that is blowing around loose in the city. And so how do we try and thread that needle where we don't want people just leaving piles of cardboard loose, but also recognizing, there's breaking down cardboard it's not easy for people. It's how I get my aggression out, but it might not be fun for other people. And so, yeah, so I mean, that it might be a challenge, but how do we meet the goals of the program while also trying to accommodate needs of residents?
Is that going to be a yes or no?
So I would say by the end of this week, I should have a clearer answer. I mean, because I think our initial approach was, if it's not broken down, we're going to pick it up as trash. And, that was our understanding, that if it's not broken down, it can't be processed, therefore it's going to be trash. But I think Okra is coming in to say, well, wait a second, let's see if we can find a way to try and get that material recycled, even if it's not broken down.
Yeah, Okra always wants to recycle.
Yeah. Come on up, Kevin. Save me from myself.
I'm Kevin Spillane. I'm the executive director at Okra,
and
we've been speaking with the city on how to address it. It's, I started recycling programs 30 years ago. It's the same problem we had 30 years ago. You have one size container, so sometimes you get a big box, like you talked about, a TV box, jamming it in that recycling cart is going to jam everything else up. It also makes it harder to get that material out for the workers. So we want to, one, continue to educate the consumers that this is a commodity. It's no longer a trash item. How do you get a commodity ready for market? It's going to be a continuous education effort. That's why we spend almost $400,000 a year, at Okra to be able to continue to educate the community. We're really excited about what Ann talked about. We have a whole host of people that are never recycled before. So that's going to really take some time. Goes back to the OOP stickers and the amount of time, to get people educated. That's what we were talking about this morning is we're going to continue to get those boxes. Somebody sits outside of their container. How do you address it? The city certainly compacting the recycling in those compactors is going to be a big effort to be able to process them a little bit better at the recycling facility. But in the long run, we don't want wet, destroyed cardboard mixed in with the good recycling. Our preference would be to get people to learn to break that down. So it's going to be a continuous education effort. But it's really trying to change the mindset that this is just cardboard and trash that you're setting out. We do not want that to be destroyed. We'd rather use it as a resource and reuse it again. So our effort is to try to get them to understand that and to process it.
Right. I would say, a big problem that I've seen for decades, and you have too, is that they get the TV and they leave the packaging in there. They leave the cardboard and the plastic and the twist ties in there. That means the whole thing's trash. So if they are not following the rules that have been set for over 30 years in this community of flatten and break down your cardboard, they're already creating trash and doing it wrong currently if they're doing it that way. So I think Kevin's right. It's all about education. And, the line from Okra that I've heard for decades, which I encourage all of you to, if you want a tour of the recycling facility, to talk to Kevin, or you can go to the Okra page and see my lovely video explaining the recycling facility. But if it's too big, it will not be processed on the recycling line, and it will become contamination at the recycling facility, which is the same reason why when you're getting questions from residents about why can't we put our recycling bin in that container, we want you to leave it out next to the cart, their old recycling bin, right? Leave it next to the cart so we can pick it up separately. It can't be thrown in there because it's too big, it's too bulky, it's not going to sort. So if you keep that in mind, that things like that kind of size, they will not fit onto the assembly line for sorting at the recycling facility.
I respect that, and by no means trying to be disrespectful.
Right.
But you guys got to make a decision because you can't say we're going to educate and then we fine them. It's either you doing it this way, or you
Right.
doing it that way. So
Yeah.
when we can tell the same thing to constituents.
Fair.
If you do it this way, this is the rules. Not, well, in the education time, we're gonna figure it out. If they break it down and they can't break it down, what's the option?
Right, right.
Or if they break it down, what's the option?
Right.
We just need to be clear,
Yeah.
not like we're teeter-tottering.
Yeah, I mean, I think it will. I think you're absolutely right, Counselor. We do need to be clear. It is something that we address in the FAQs. What we say is, that material outside of the cart won't be collected as recycling material. So, I mean, anything outside of the cart, so to Kevin's point, we want to encourage people and educate them as to why the cardboard needs to be broken down. But really, if it's outside of the cart, to Kevin's point, it's going to get wet, it's going to get contaminated. So we do want to try and encourage people to break down the cardboard. I don't want people thinking cardboard is trash, but just know if you're unable to break it down, it's going to be, it's outside of the cart, it's going to be considered trash. And we'd like
It's
to.
going to be considered a fine. So say someone get a refrigerator delivered, right? And they leave the boxes, right? They can't break it all down. What would a person, constituents do? Would
I
that-
advise them to call for a bulk set out. I mean, same way with trash, anything that's outside of the cart, whether it's trash or recycling, would be considered a bulk set out. So if you're unable to break down the cardboard box, to call it in as a bulk set out because it's something that's outside of the cart. But again, I think, the education of why does cardboard need to be broken down, because I've been on the Ochre board for a number of years, and I'm not sure I knew that, of why it needs to be broken down. And it makes a lot of sense, and we just need to make sure we get that message out there that there's a reason why we ask people to do it.
Does the bulk pickup come out every time people call, or is it on a weekly basis?
So it's just, you have four bulk set outs a year, so you just call City Line, as long as it's not the night before, you just call and say, I'm setting out some oversized cardboard, I'm setting out if it's trash, I'm setting out a broken chair, I'm setting
So
out.
you keep it until it's time for, okay.
But I mean, that's a weekly, people could call, it's picked up with their weekly trash.
Go into your next slide and then we can.
Yeah, sure. So this is mirroring what happened with trash, working with the council, that, the notice of violations, that's the same as it is now, that's the same as it is with trash. Notice of violations, this is after the education period, after the warning period. It'll be very similar as it is with trash now, after 24 hours, if the issue is not resolved, then the city's going to pick it up, and then a fine is charged to the resident, to the property owner, or the property owner can also dispute the ticket. So this is identical to what we do with trash, and and that would be the process for recycling as well.
All right, so we'll go back to slide 1.
Sure.
The investing in our neighborhoods with improved services. As we can see in the picture, I mean, it does look a lot better with the trash cart there. Just a brief thing on some of the trash cart related issues that we have.
Sure.
If a cart is set out in a violation, right, currently they lose their privileges for pickup, right?
I'm sorry, say that again?
If the trash cart, if it has a violation, they
Yes.
lose their privilege for pickup that day, right? Or is it as we?
So, I mean,
change it?
Depends
the-
on the violation.
Yeah, go ahead.
So if they had not called in for a bulk request, they just had a ton of trash outside the cart, we'd still empty the cart, we'll leave the violation.
So they're still getting picked up.
The cart itself, if that's a violation, if they say put out a TV, we're going to still empty the cart, we're going to tag the violation.
Okay.
If it's an overflowing cart, that's different.
And overflowing is, okay, what's the discretion with overflowing if the lid is up a little bit or if it's completely up? Because we did have some people call in
Well,
and
we
say
can't
my
be,
lid was only
like,
a little,
I can't say to you,
little
like, well,
bit.
6 inches versus 10 inches or anything like that. We tell the staff to use their discretion. Ben, do you want to comment a little better on it? Like, I mean, we tell the staff to use their discretion. Obviously, if you can, press it down and it's not egregious.
Introduce yourself to the folks
It's
at
tough
home,
to even
Ben.
roll the cart over there if it's all the way up like that. The trash will fall out on the ground, create a mess. So it is at their discretion. If it's up a little bit, they're normally taking it.
Okay.
Right.
And how many residents have asked for a second card?
So since the legislation was put in place to make second carts available, we've had 7 residents that have, 7,
That have filled out the
that have filled out
paperwork
the
and paid and-
application, made the payment.
So many of them actually have had their carts stolen. So then you you're not going to charge them for a second one, right?
That's not the policy right now, correct?
So if we, usually it takes us a week, to get them a new cart. We look up everything. If we go there and they say the cart was stolen and it wasn't, because we can see the cart there,
Okay,
that's a
because I
different
see
scenario.
some people on Butternut Street taking carts and they're putting their bottles in their cans,
Yep.
so that's
Right.
stolen.
We
And
pick
then
them
you
up.
also have maybe houses that person is no longer live there, or then the next person comes in, well, where's my cart?
Correct.
And
Yeah.
we did put that in the ordinance that the cart is supposed to stay with the
Right.
address. It is not owned by that resident. It is
Right.
owned by the city of Syracuse, and it is supposed to stay with that
Right,
place.
so it's going to be technicalities,
Yep.
you know?
Yep.
We
issues.
handle those every day.
Okay.
So how many cars have been reported stolen?
So I did get this question. It's going to take us just a little bit longer. So the people call in the stolen carts. We probably have maybe, I don't know, 200 or 300 people who have called in to say they have a stolen cart. Once they call to say my cart has been stolen, we ask them to get a police report. And that's in part so that we have it documented that this has been stolen. So Councilor Nave, to your point, if we find a cart somewhere and somebody has it, we can say, like, we have a report that says this does not belong to you, so we got to take it back.
So these are all registered, right?
They are, yes,
They're
with the number
registered.
and everything. And
Okay.
so what we don't yet have, Counselor, is how many people, once they call to tell us the cart has been stolen, actually then follow up with SPD to fill out the report, because understandably, sometimes it's an honest mistake. Their son or daughter who takes out the trash put it on the other side of the garage and they thought it was stolen, but as it turns out, they have it. So, I can absolutely get that data. It's just going to take me to connect with SPD to get a couple more to find out how many people actually followed up to say, filled out the report to say, yes, my cart was actually
Sometimes
stolen.
we give them the cart number, and they're able to locate it
And
themselves.
also, the issue is when they come pick it up, like with the blue bins, I find my blue bin over here, or
Right.
they lost a blue bin over here, so.
Right. Sometimes-
These issues will happen when they.
Right. Some people, their neighbor picked it up or,
Mm-hmm.
or they have it. So not every person who calls to say my trash cart has been
Right.
stolen end up actually following through to say it absolutely has been stolen, and I can get you that information. I just need to connect with SPD.
And with personnel on Monday, make sure that it's put back where it was.
Yes,
Okay.
and that's why in part we encourage people to, write their addresses on the
Oh, sure.
on the white strip on the cart so that we can try to keep track of which one belongs where.
So in the case where the actual cart was actually reported stolen, we find that it was stolen, what's the process? How long does it take? for them to
So,
get the
yeah,
cart back?
once we get, so we encourage the person to fill out the police report, and then once that information is received by City Line, that they have the report number, they reach out to sanitation at DPW, and then DPW will deliver the other cart. We're usually able to do it within the week so that the person doesn't miss their pickup.
How are we doing with helping out our seniors with
So
their
we
carts?
have 215 people who have received exemptions either due to, because of a disability or some sort of limitation. So it's 215. Those people will not receive the recycling cart because obviously if they have a challenge navigating the trash cart, they would not receive the recycling cart. So we've got 215 people who are currently have exemptions for that.
And they can continue to use their recycling bin, and they'll continue to get assisted service from DPW.
So procedurally, you pick up the trash cart if there's trash in it and there's something next to it, the sticker goes on it, right? And then they got 24 hours to take care of that. If they don't take care of it, we go back, pick it up, and fine?
Correct.
Okay.
Andy
That's it.
Jakubowski's crew is the one that
Yes, I
goes
know
back.
Andy very
yes. So,
And he should have an S on his chest and a cape.
have you been talking to Robin? She says that all the time. So, we greatly appreciate everything he does and his crew that has to go back 24 hours. And so, they currently, if it's complied, they just mark it complied, and no ticket is issued, no one's fined or anything like that. If he goes back and it has not been resolved, he will take more pictures of it, then clear it, and then take another picture.
And us going into a 2-week schedule, as most of us know, will be able to free up some people to be Andy Jr.
Yeah, I think, and also with the route optimization as well, we were able to free up 3 crews. We reduced the number of routes from 15 to 12, which has allowed us more staff to do all the other things in sanitation that need to be done.
We've only completed 1 week of route optimization, and I think it's going amazing. Ben can give his independent opinion, but it has freed up some staff to work on specifically on bulk routes to make sure we're doing them better than ever. It frees up a person to go take care of any issues from the previous day. And I think it's going amazingly well so far. And the residents have really seemed to get it. The challenge of, there was a couple routes, as you know, in Eastwood and the Valley that went a day earlier. They've gone really well.
So go ahead.
Do we have a big amount of fines that we are dealing with at this point?
In terms of trash?
Payment?
Oh, I don't have the payment. I mean, I can absolutely get, in terms of how many fines we've issued and how many people have paid.
Yeah, just to see
Sure.
how many people actually do pay.
Yeah, absolutely. I can get that information.
Okay. And then moving into recycling. Seeing it in the packet here that we have before us, I'm just, I can see that I've been violating a lot of recycling and trash.
We could
things that
get you
have
one-on-one
here.
support, Counselor.
I mean,
appreciate it.
again, for what it's worth and having as many meetings as we have, I refer to that guide every week.
So has this, my concern is with the carts being rolled out, supposed to roll out on the 7th. However, has all of this information been sent out across the city about the proper ways of recycling and everything like, because this is also a lot of information of do's and don'ts of recycling 101. I mean, water hoses, little plastic containers, egg cartons and things like that. I thought that was all recyclable. Some drink glasses, openware, window glass, mirrors. I didn't know that was supposed to be trash-related materials.
I think the don'ts are a very good thing that you're honing in on. I think, we have chronically, it's called wish cycling. If you think, oh, that should be recyclable, then people put it in there. And so reading the do not recycle list is even more important, I think, than reading the recycle list. The old adage from Okra was, when in doubt, throw it out. So
What's that again?
when in doubt, throw it out.
So, just in case your question's gonna, and maybe I'm opening up a can of worms, but I do that well. So, what does our training program look like for the people that are picking up the phone at City Line? Because, and I don't want to pick on them because that's got to be a terrible job. And I'm sure they're trying to do their best, but I've got to tell you, a lot of the calls that I end up taking are miscommunications from City Line, which then leads me to a 3-hour conversation with Ann throughout the day, not a 3 hours straight. Nobody stays on the phone with me for that long, but it just seems like they don't have the same information. And what I'm facing is that in this day of misinformation, if you're paying attention to the world, people go to Facebook and one neighbor says one thing and it spreads like wildfire and they all start doing something terrible. Then one person calls City Line and they give them a completely different answer. So, not to pick on them, but I think something's wrong.
Okay.
I can answer the City Line.
City Line has also received this entire packet as well, and I send them everything the minute it hit, the minute it goes to the printer. They get all of the same information that all the residents do. They have my phone number. They call me with all the messaging questions that they have. I work with Haley at the mayor's office as well to make sure that all of the information gets passed along to everyone as well. Make sure that we update the website with all of the current information. So the information is out there. It is, like you said, a challenge to just ensure that everyone is saying the right stuff on messaging all the time. But just quickly to say, this postcard, the first page that you got, this has already hit mailboxes. So you should already have gotten one of these. The next 1, 2, 3, the next little chunk of stuff will be delivered with the cart in the bags. Just like the trash carts, there is a bag inside your cart. There will be all the guidelines, the FAQs, the translation card, the do's and don'ts. We are also doing another 10-day postcard, which I gave to you all as well. It's just not attached to the packet because I had to print it last minute, but it's there. And then after everyone has gotten their cart, we are doing another similar postcard to this one, just reiterate recycling guidelines. That was an idea that the Recycling Partnership as well as Okra encouraged us to do. So we are reiterating the recycling information because for all you know, someone may not have seen all of the postcards up until they get their cart delivered and then they're like, what do I do with this now? So we are making sure that we're not just sending stuff before, but we're also sending stuff after. And this will become something that you will see quarterly messaging about year round. This is not something that we are gonna just deliver a cart and never talk about again. This is something that's gonna, every quarter, we're gonna have some sort of communication, whether it's a video, just a reminder, social media post, whether it's a press release. We will do our hardest to make sure that this information gets spread every quarter, if not every 6 months. The city services guide will be updated with all of the current recycling information as well, bi-weekly calendars, and that goes out at the beginning of the year. So hypothetically, after wherever warning period, however long we do, people will get another reminder in January about what the expectations are. So they will really receive, hopefully, like, if they get everything and read everything, up to like 30 different messaging guides about recycling and about what is expected of
And if
them.
they still have questions, we'll have them call you.
Yep, they can call City Line.
So to the city line point, I just want to say we are, in light of, you're right, and I appreciate you acknowledging that City Line is a very difficult job to there are some thank yous, but a lot of it is people that need help. Changing the reporting structure at City Line, Okra has met with City Line to train them on, to provide what guidance City Line can. Obviously Okra is ultimately the experts, but what guidance City Line can about recycling materials. And then also, I know the leadership team at City Line is setting up, at least weekly, if not more, meetings with Sol to make sure that they've got the latest information. We're getting feedback from callers of what questions are we getting, make sure that we've got the answers documented so that it's not as if they have to all hold it in their head. It's someplace that is distributed and everybody's giving the same information.
Are they understaffed?
They would currently, yes. Yes, and a lot of that just has to do with the nature of the civil service process and waiting for test results to post and then posting the position. So, but we're also working with HR to fill that gap in the meantime, and we fully expect to be staffed by the time we roll out the carts.
We have to, I have a twofold question. So one of the things, I'm always gonna say it, we gotta let the young people know. If they don't know, it's gonna be, all the community centers, right? Because everybody does not go to TNT. But if our young people know, then it'll be an education that will trickle on over to adults too, right? So that's gonna be important for that. The second thing is, I just looked up on okra.org and electronics. What do people do with their electronics and stuff?
Okra, would you like to provide guidance on what people
We
should do?
just had a committee meeting about Vito and how people don't have cars to drop stuff off. So what are the options?
Well, New York State currently has a program with their extended producer responsibility where electronics can be dropped off at various retail locations to be able to get rid of them. The challenge is, in the city especially, is in regard to people who don't have that transportation. And long-term, that's one of the things that we're really working towards. Is something
You take a VO there.
So is there any way, so for instance, I know you guys know a better history of, holiday times coming up, you're gonna see more boxes, you're gonna see them. Is there any way we can create some kind of, so we can prevent like tires out, electronics being thrown in different woods all over the city, right? I'm seeing it, where we can create a day once a year or something where they can put it out and there's a pickup, like on an A day or a B day, so that we can prevent that. Is there a way that we can create that? Because a lot of people are dumping it or keeping it, and it's, they have no way of getting rid of it.
Right.
Imagine carrying a 65-inch TV where somebody older couldn't carry that.
Right. Yeah, I think it, to Kevin's point, I think we do need to find a way, and I'd, be happy to talk with the team about a way we can do this, striking a balance so that we don't open it up to every out-of-town landlord or doesn't live in the city landlord who wants to get rid of every TV that they've ever had, sets it out, because obviously that costs, when you go to the recycling events, you're able to dispose of it free of charge, but when the city picks up a TV and tries to dispose of it, there's a cost to the city to do that. And so if everybody in the city is setting out, every TV and coming in from all over, how do we just strike that balance to make sure that
maybe we do a minimum.
Right.
You
I
know,
mean-
like 2 TVs or something. Because either way, it's going to cost us. Because people are, I mean, I see all kinds of stuff all over the place,
Right.
right? So we're getting, you
Yeah.
know, you're dealing with it anyway. So if we make it
Yeah.
something that we could create and put a limit on it, like 1
Okay.
or 2 that you could put out, maybe 2 tires, 2
Right.
I don't know, so that we can get rid of
Yeah.
some of this stuff that's dumped all over.
Right. I mean, right now, you know, for what it's worth, and I think this just speaks to we can never do enough communication outreach. There's always more to be done. You can set out 4 tires a year and call it into City Line and say, hey, I've set out 4 tires, and the city will pick those up and dispose of those. And that's in part what the freed up staff is able to do. But to your point, you know, with electronics, and I know this is a long-term goal for Okra, is to try and make those drop-up points more accessible to city residents, because, you know, not everybody has a vehicle. Balancing a 65-inch TV on a Vail bike, you know, might be a bit of a challenge all the way to Jamesville. So, you know, I will say just from a strategic standpoint, that is conversations that we're having with Okra to talk about how can we make those services more accessible to city residents.
I
But,
mean-
yeah,
I was going to make a comment. We got a lot of illegal dumping going on right now. You know, we had tires dumped at the Vietnamese Community Center. A resident called me, someone dumped a TV on our lawn.
right.
I mean, how do we work around this, though? This is a bad issue.
Yeah, it is difficult, and we work often with Sergeant Romaine from SPD to try and, you know, see is there any cameras nearby that maybe we could see if somebody dumped a bag of trash, is there some sort of material in there that could identify maybe where it came from, pieces of mail that
Right.
make it clear what property it
Because
came
I've got to
from.
call DPW on this. And
Yes.
They've been good because, you know, these people are upset.
Yeah, I
you
mean,
know?
and that's to who Ann referenced earlier. Andy Jacobowski spends a lot of time dealing with the illegal dumping. You know, it's was a challenge before we rolled out trash carts. It continues to be a challenge. I think to Councilor Caldwell's point, and I know is one of the standing goals of Okra, is to try and make it more accessible to people of where you can dispose of that stuff safely.
Another thing too is the batteries, rechargeable.
Yep.
Or other batteries that
Right,
are,
right.
you know,
Right, and we've actually partnered with Okra, who's applying for a grant right now, right, Kristen, to put some battery drop centers in our community centers.
This is Kristen Lund. She's our Director of Recycling and Reduction, and she can speak to that.
Hi. Yeah, so Okra is actually currently, it has not officially been awarded, but we're kind of in the final stages of negotiation with the Department of Energy to work on this very specific topic related to batteries. One, the types of batteries that are, we call them DDR batteries, which are damaged, defective, recalled batteries. Because those types of batteries are a safety concern to residents, as well as our facilities and the folks collecting these materials. They do not really belong in your trash or your recycling. There's actually a law that covers some rechargeable batteries that they need to be recycled. And so this grant is aimed at helping us install more collection bins in various locations in the city of Syracuse to make this more accessible to folks. Because right now we're servicing parts of the community, but most of them are in suburban Wegmans locations. So we're trying to make this more accessible to your residents, for sure.
They've been in talks with parks to see if that might be an option. Not to spoil anything. Spoiler alert.
We're right now, just for the people listening, so we can put 4 tires out a year, right?
Yes.
A DPW. Where right now, if they needed a TV, where could they, I mean, they wanted to get rid of a TV, where could they drop it?
So what we recommend to residents is on the Okra website, there are a host of locations where you do have to bring them. There isn't a collection option at this point, but there are several locations. The Salvation Army on Erie Boulevard is one of the places that will take most sizes, any size at no cost, which is really one of the only places that takes them at no charge. And as Kevin mentioned, the state has been working to expand and improve an existing electronics recycling law for some time to make it more accessible and free for everything that people want to drop off. The TVs are a little bit of a challenge right now, but most any electronics, there are several locations that you can visit our website, and depending on what you have, you can drop it off at no cost.
Yeah.
So with that, in the near future, maybe this year possibly, could we kind of collaborate on like maybe each quadrant or however we want to divide this up? We can set up a shop, in a parking lot somewhere and allow people to be able to drop these things off in collaboration with Okra.
So to do like an e-waste drive in the city?
Yes. If that manageable.
So what we're trying to work with the city, and I've been talking to Corey about it, is to develop not only just a temporary infrastructure, but actually a physical infrastructure where people who don't have transportation, obviously, like you're going to go drop off household hazardous waste, you don't want it sitting on your lap on a bus. So it'd be where they physically could bring it to a neighborhood and get access to it. The issue is that how do we do that? So again, to your point, not to get inundated with material and to be able to manage it. And then long-term, Okra needs to be able to assist the city so that material is collected and brought and disposed of properly or recycled properly. So we're working on those elements of it. Corey and I have had some discussions about it. We're trying to get a handle on how, one, physically where we could do this, and then two, we need to implement the collection stage of it so we don't put the cart before the horse,
Right.
and then we'll get that out. But we're very sensitive to it because, as I think that Kristen just said, a lot of our programs sometimes are centered around some of those suburban, people that can actually access it to it by car. It makes sense, but even that's not convenient. And the whole key to what we're talking about here, whether it's a big box that gets set out or too many tires, is convenience. If it's not convenient, people are just going to dump it. And they're going to set it by the side of the road or dump it in a ravine, dump it in one of the creeks. It's not conducive to our community. And I'm a city of Syracuse resident myself. Our goal is to try to make it more convenient. So that's what we're aiming for. And I think we got a lot of support from the city, so hopefully it'll be something soon.
Right. In the immediate term, we'd be happy to look into, potentially having an e-waste event in the city, because I know oftentimes they're at Burdick or they're at the fairgrounds, which is just not, convenient for a lot of folks. But then I think, to what Kevin's speaking to, trying to get something that's just more predictable, more sustainable, happening on a more regular basis in our, whether it's our community centers or, in the neighborhoods where people can
School district
expect,
parking
yes,
lots,
school district
something like
parking lots, every Saturday, first Saturday of the month, something that is just sustainable, because if it's not convenient, people are just throwing it away, and a lot of that stuff can be reused and recycled.
Is there so when the assembly members have those recycling events, is there a reason that they do them out in the suburbs versus just having one in the city? Like
I would guess
know-
just space.
Is it just
It's
room?
basically location. A lot of them are using Solar Street especially because, as you know, when you go out Solar Street with the parking lots that are there, it's so much easier to get them through. We've held events even at MBT Stadium, and it's just not convenient because, we've had people back up all the way in Hiawatha, and it just is not conducive. Real problem is that. But when we're talking about people who are using cars and, coming to an event in a different way, maybe there's something we can do in terms of making it a little bit more decentralized. And that's the key. How do we decentralize it, but at the same time, people are going to say, oh, I got this stuff at my house, I'm just going to go dump it. It's going to be at the parking lot at the school. I'm just going to go dump it at the parking lot. And then Ann's getting calls, and DPW's getting calls, and we're just trying to go out and take care of it. So we're sensitive to wanting to make sure we get the infrastructure set up so we can address it. And when the city needs to get rid of that stuff because somebody just inconveniently set it aside at the wrong time, we want to make sure that infrastructure is there so we can take that material easy enough for them and not make it a burden to the city.
I will,
We'll use our data from Leo.
Yeah, let's figure out, why not?
Right?
You've got a TV.
I mean,
you
on a
free ride.
positive note, I'm just going to, because I ran the e-waste program at Okra and I ran the events, TVs and electronics were banned from the curb approximately 15 years ago after the digital conversion happened there. And the number of TVs that the city of Syracuse is collecting has drastically dropped. I didn't know when the curve would actually drop. It has drastically dropped. So we have a company that comes and takes them, and we have to package them up for them. But it used to be much more expensive, and now it's working much better. So
I think they're all in my basement.
that's probably why I haven't seen them.
Well, one thing I think on here, it says you can't bag things for the recycling, but you can paper bag things for recycling, can't you? Or you can't?
Well,
You can put stuff in a
wants
paper
to
bag?
talk, but there's kind of the best practices.
So, yeah, sorry, or Tammy, this is Tammy, our
You guys
Palmer, our
gonna-
public
okay,
information
you're
officer.
gonna Double team me here?
So, yeah, we're both going to give you all the recycling rules. So from a processing perspective, it is essential that recycling be put in the carts or bins, whatever residents are using, loose. And for years and years, I know Okra said, hey, put your papers in a paper bag, right? That was the message. But that has evolved over time as the equipment has changed, as the processing has sped up. And what needs to happen is things have to be loose, even your paper items. So we are asking No bags at all, no paper bags, no
You
plastic
can
bags.
put the bags in the recycle.
The bags, empty and flat, you can put in your recycle bin if they're paper, yes. Plastics should never go. No plastic bag should ever go in your recycle bin.
Okay. I'll never do it.
I mean, it's so important. Well, and kind of going back to the operation piece of it, what happens with film plastic? So your plastic bags, your newspaper bags, your dry cleaning bags, whatever you have, overwrap on paper towels or water bottles, that material is recyclable, but if you put it in your curbside recycling bin, when it gets to the sorting facility, it's a very mechanical process. And Ann mentioned a video that's on the Okra website. We'll make sure that you all get a copy of it. You do get to listen to Ann narrating it. But it goes through and shows you the actual process at the facility, and you can see the equipment. And there's machinery there that basically goes around and rotates in circles. And any film plastics or tanglers, like those hoses you were mentioning, they wrap around the equipment, and multiple times a day, the equipment has to stop, and it really slows down the process. On top of that, that material, once it's dirty, those film plastics, the bags, it cannot be recycled. It's too dirty once it mixes with everything else. So those items, they can be recycled, just not in your curbside recycling bin. They should be dropped off at retail stores. And I could probably talk for 7 more hours about details like this, but
Paper bags have to,
this is the plastic
Plastic,
foam.
like dry cleaning bags and things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Paper
So,
bags can go in your recycling if they're flat and empty.
Everyone getting one of these?
Yeah. Everyone will get, there's a back to it as well. So in your cart, you want me to just, in your cart, you will have a card like this that has the recycling guide on the front, and on the back, it addresses where to go for e-waste. It addresses that you can't bag your recyclables, and where to go for toxics and batteries. So everyone in the city, when your carts are dropped off, will get this card, front and back.
QR code on there?
Not this one, however, there is another one that we have given for the follow-up mailing that Sol has talked about. That has a QR code on it. I can show you really quick what that looks like. That one, the reason it has a QR code on it is because we have also put other languages that we have this card available on our website for. And if someone sees this guide and then sees their language here, they know to follow this path, and it'll bring them right to the part of the website where they can see their language. So they don't have to navigate our website to figure out where their recycling guide is. So if you speak Spanish, for example, you see this in English, you see that you can go here. When you go here, you will see your recycling guide in Spanish.
A quick suggestion. Magnets are awesome, right? Because people will put them on their refrigerators. If you could have put a QR code on something like this, then I think it would be used more than a paper, because that paper is going to be somewhere.
Yeah.
We can definitely look into putting, like, sending out a magnet. I would just have to see about costs. I know that our printer can do them.
Like, this is a magnet,
yeah.
Cost
you
of
know what I mean?
mailing and
Yeah.
cost of the magnet.
Yeah. And that post, the one that will go in the bag is in your packet as well, so you have that information already there. So we just really want to make sure also that people know that the city can answer questions about recycling, but the people who really have the information is Okra. Okra has an online database that you can literally look up basically anything you want to throw out, and it'll tell you what to do with it. So we want to make sure that we're pushing out that information as much as possible, not just in our bags and in our mailings, but just in general, because people should know that those resources are out there and available for them.
So, my last and final thing for me is the October 7th or October 6th rollout date. With all the general education and things, because this is like has my head spinning too with a lot of things. Nothing against your efforts that you have done so far with getting this education out to the community. I do think some more of these type of things and more outreach would be deemable for us, just to push back the date for the rollout date just so far, just so that we can get that, that constituent aspect of all these questions and things like that out of the way. And then we can, move forward with that. I mean, unless any other councilors have any other comments to speak on that. But it's great. I'm thankful for the efforts so far. It's a much-needed process that we have with our new carts. It does look a lot better in the city with the trash carts. You know, the men and women in the DPW team, thanks to you all, have been doing a great job with this. I am looking forward to seeing the recycle carts come out. I just want to make sure everybody really pays attention to all of this stuff here. The other thing is with the amount of recyclables that are going out, you don't really foresee anybody needing a second cart for recycle carts, right?
I mean, I don't, what a great problem to have. I don't anticipate that in the initial push, but it's something that we absolutely remain open to, that if, we've got some really, people that are just producing a lot of material or really avid recyclers, I think, again, that's a good problem to have, but in talking to other municipalities, it's not an issue that we necessarily anticipate, but I think we remain open to it if the need arises.
Right now, if they're breaking down their recycling, you can flatten your tissue box, you can flatten that milk jug. You'll find you shouldn't have a problem with that.
Are you going to do the rollout next week?
No, October 7th is when the carts are going to be, delivered.
And it's going to
Okay.
take them 2 weeks to
Got it.
deliver
Yeah, and
them.
it's a 2-week delivery
So
timeframe.
then, like, they pick it up on the 7th? Let me see, they'll pick it
So-
up on the 7th, and then the next week, with the new carts, they'll pick it up, and then they have to skip them. Okay.
Correct, yep,
All right, thank you.
yep, you're welcome.
Counselor, can I say something? I noticed on this card that we got, I know I'm gonna be the devil advocate, but it seems as though we jumped the gun before the legislation was approved. I mean, we do have to approve the legislation for this. Joe left, he was actually waiting, so we can talk about that part, but you can call him afterwards. But the part that gets me, it says we should start using the woolen recycling card as soon as possible. So, I don't know, it's kind of, it's really premature because if the council decided to push it back on the date, all this then went out, and so I'm just, and the legislation haven't been approved.
Yeah, we don't, so we don't.
I think that we need some clarity here.
Yeah, happy to
public
engage in
hearing possibly.
conversations. The legislation doesn't impact anything operationally, and we did
Yeah,
submit the legislation a few meetings ago.
Yeah, we did, and the reason why it didn't get on the agenda because the council looked to have a caucus regarding this. They didn't want it on the agenda at that time, and everybody being on vacation, including you all being on vacation, they had a meeting when they was able to, and also the council wanted to have a committee meeting too, so they can decide and collaborate with you guys about what they discussed. I just think this is a little premature, being that we're not there yet.
Happy to take the conversation offline.
Any further questions, comments, or concerns? Who'd like to add up anything at the end?
No, we're good.
All right, this concludes the meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.